Hey everybody, did you know you can go to colinmullen.com in order to get art and art prints? That's why I set up the website, colinmullen.com. Hey everybody, did you know I actually record that differently every time, even though I say the exact same thing with the exact same cadence? Why do I do that rather than just I don't know, clip in from a previous? I don't know. I could probably say something else as well, but just, it flows now. Anyway, this painting is something that I was I had some cool pictures on my phone of these cherry blossoms that are near our garden. And I was like, you know what? Let me paint that. But I wanted to do something cool with it. So I started messing around with filters on my phone, trying to find something to posterize it or something. Didn't find that, found a different feature. And I'm like, that looks pretty good and kind of abstract. And, I'd been looking at a lot of abstract art because that's what, the white wall galleries kind of like to put out, I made repetitive moving forms of shapes on a background of whatever monotone gray, and it's cool, so you put some squares or something on a gray background, great. And we were looking over those when we were looking at stream the other day, and we ended up actually pulling up some really actually good artists that I'd like to do deep dives on, but I wasn't able to do all of my homework in time for that. And this ends up just looking like an Arizona tea label, which isn't the worst thing to be associated with, but I've never had any, just kind of not what I was going for at all. And it wasn't until I started putting the teal down and then the pink and the yellow, and I was like, wait a minute, I know this. So, I mean, it looks a little bit less like that by the end, just because I used a little bit more saturation on the teal, but still. So for today's video, I'm gonna have a bit of a controversial take. It's kind of what I do here. I just say controversial things that I think we should start gatekeeping some. Let me explain before we turn off the video, because that take is not good. What I mean to say is, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about punk and metal, and I think this goes for art as well, that, it's just vibes, man. Let's just listen to the music over anything else, let's just enjoy the art form, why do we gotta get all political about it? That kind of thing. And I think to divorce art and metal and punk from their history of being political in all cases, it becomes a thing where it has no substance anymore. It just becomes a thing that can be bought and sold. So I guess in postscript, I'm going to say, you don't have to make your art political. You don't have to be talking about this stuff if you yourself are an artist. But I'm just saying we should probably at least acknowledge the stuff that's in the room rather than just acting like that doesn't exist. That's all I'm really saying here. So I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything that people say. And I'm not saying that you gotta be able to know X number of facts about your band before you can wear a patch for them on your battle jacket or whatever. But if I see you wearing a screwdriver patch, I'm gonna beat the hell out of you, because I assume that that they are white supremacists. If I see you wearing some stuff that approves of XYZ band, I'm gonna assume that you also approve of those takes, and maybe we'll become friends off of that, or maybe I'll hate you for that. Art has and will always be something that is for people to express the things that's on their minds. And it's a way for people, especially disenfranchised people, to be able to express things that they can't express normally because no one will listen. That's why punk music exists. That's why a lot of these underground movements exist as well, is that was the space that they were able to find for themselves in order to say those things and be like, I don't like this, or I am this, or whatever. I'm never going to get over the fact that I was able to go see a portrait of Ross. Technically, it's untitled, by Felix Gonzalez Torres, because the idea is it starts off as his lover's weight, 175 pounds, and he was withering away to, HIV/AIDS, and the fact that supply is re-added, like they keep it together so I can experience it, rather than people just taking the candy and then, eating it, and slowly this very sweet, nice person that this person used to love is gone. That is very profound, but in order for it to be sold, it has to continue to exist, right? In a similar way, when people are like, let's keep politics out of punk, it's like, well, where do you think these guys came from? Why do you think it sounds the way it does? Same thing with metal. Peace sells, but who's buying? How can you say that that was not a political statement? War pigs. These are inherently stories about being anti-war. It's just cooler sounding than hippies, So when people want these very sanitized versions of art or music or whatever, without understanding where these things came from, like, that's when I actually start to be like, what are you doing here? Is this actually something you enjoy? Because it's very hard for me to be able to reconcile the things like the Impressionist movement being like completely taken away from any of the politics that was involved in it. And now it's just a pretty thing that people like to paint, and that's fine. I'm glad people enjoy it. But there are politics there. There are a lot of politics there. And ignoring them ignores the fight and the struggle that those artists that you say you like went through. Suffice to say that if your movement originally did come from politics and you want to, remove that context from it, you're making the effort that Walmart is making to make it sellable and packageable. And we need to not be sellable and packageable. We need to not have every single part of our lives be able to be bought and sold. We already do that with the rest of our lives. Why do we allow this to be one of those things? The things that you're about, the things that you care about, like you're gonna file off the numbers so that way it doesn't have the same vibes, so that way it can be more palatable, So what I'm saying is leave yourself uncensored. Do not censor yourself. Don't use that weird crap that people say, like to make it more palatable for people so that way they can be included. Use that as your gatekeep. This is a political thing. And if they don't like that, well, they can find a different hobby to enjoy. That's fine with me. But you can't say, hey, no, this thing isn't political, when it always has been. Anyway, let me thank the people on patreon.com/RevScarecrow that make it so that way I can still do this thing that I do. Starting with my mom and dad. I love you. Thank you, Wapfu. Thank you, Toph Houndor. Thank you, Split. Thank you, Spaghetto. Thank you, Sophia Nope. Thank you, Skelecorgi. Thank you, Sheep. Thank you, Seraph. Thank you, Reverend Joe. Thank you, Pig Wrestler. Thank you, Mortis. Thank you, Michael Carr. Thank you, Micah. Thank you, Mario Pereira. Thank you, Lunar Ray. Thank you, Kayla Hollinger. Thank you, Katie Valent. Thank you, Josepher. Thank you, Gabriel Bennett. Thank you, Freak Wannabe. Thank you, Egg. Thank you, Count Cannoli. Thank you, Chiptune Glitch. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Aggiewag. And thank you, Ants. Gotta keep you guessing. Anyway, I need to do some homework for next week, because seeing all of these artists that kind of prove that point, seeing these artists that are talking about the things that are actually important to them rather than just seeing like the crap that I had been seeing, was so incredibly healing and liberating, and just like, oh my God, there it is. Let's make art about art again. Let's make art about the things you care about. Let's make art. And I guess I'm pro gatekeeping now. That's a weird thing. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good week, and I will see you in 2. See you then. Bye.